Hi guys, my name is Alex. I'm one of the resident doctors in my first year of emergency medicine residency in Kelowna. This video is going to be used to teach you guys how to make medical education videos using a program called DaVinci Resolve. DaVinci Resolve is my personal favorite because it is free, it is very powerful, and it's also, in my very subjective opinion, easier to use than a lot of the other video editing softwares that are out there. You don't need anything too fancy to do what I've done here today, but I had some fancier stuff. So I'm using a Fujifilm X-T3 camera with the standard lens that comes on it. I have a Rode microphone that I'm using to record audio. I had a tripod, and I also had some special equipment called a macro extension tube that I used to get those really close-up shots of the needle. Honestly, if I was to spend money on anything when you're making a video, a good microphone is going to be the first thing. Everybody knows in the age of COVID how bad it is to try to listen to a PowerPoint presentation when the audio is not working properly. It's terrible. So that would be the first thing that I would invest in. Cameras these days on cell phones are wildly capable. And you certainly don't need to spend money on fancy stuff in order to get good results. Certainly, if you have the right camera equipment and you know how to use it, you can get much better results than a cell phone camera. But for the vast majority of sort of applications, it's certainly not necessary. If I was just getting started in video, I would use a cell phone camera and I would record audio with a special microphone that I would either plug into the cell phone itself or I would plug into my computer. It's really easy to take an audio file from a computer and a cell phone video and sync them up so that the audio actually matches. And you can do that in DaVinci Resolve with just a couple of clicks of buttons. It's really easy to find a tutorial online on how to do that. So that's kind of my spiel on equipment. Certainly it makes it better, but you don't need to have it to have a great video. You'll also notice I've made some very conscientious decisions in terms of the way that I framed each of the shots in this video. You'll see the wide angle where I do my introduction and my outro has created a little bit of a empty space in the middle for me to stand in, but it also doesn't feel too cluttered. There was a bunch of stuff sort of on the table, like the countertops behind me, and I moved all of those things off before I started filming. Might sound like a little thing, but if you have distracting elements in your background, it will make it quite difficult to have the reader captivated by what you're doing, because instead they're going to be spending all their time scanning through the background and looking at whatever weird stuff you have back there. There's a lot of weird stuff in a simulation lab too, so maybe it's extra motivation to not have that in your video. The macro shot, I'm not totally happy with how it turned out. I was having an issue with the camera focusing properly, and so that's why I used my hand to sort of give the camera an idea of where to focus on. But the focus is going in and out throughout that video, and it bugs me. I still think it's good enough that I would keep it, but I would change my technique with focusing if I was to shoot this again. Instead of using continuous focus mode, I would use manual focus mode and have the camera just fixed in one spot, and then it's very easy for me to move my hands to keep the, whatever I want in focus in that spot. When I shot the sequence where I actually place the central venous catheter, I really like the way it's framed. I stepped back and I zoomed in to make the background larger. You can read all about that kind of stuff later on, but if you zoom into a subject, it makes the background appear larger in comparison to the foreground. So I zoomed in and I stepped back so that you could see both the mannequin, my hands, and the ultrasound machine in the same shot. Unfortunately, I'm not super happy with this shot as well. The problem with it is my hands are out of focus and the ultrasound machine is in focus. And I did do some stuff to try to reduce that because I predicted that it would become an issue. Number one, I reduced the aperture. So I made the hole of light that gets into the camera smaller, which increases my depth of field. But it just doesn't seem to be quite enough. So I think next time I would think about this a little more and try to have my hands in focus, because that's really the focus of the video as opposed to the ultrasound. So that was also a bit of a mistake on my part. I think one of the difficult things about doing video editing is that you're always going to have things when you look back at it that you're not going to like. For me, it took a long time to get used to the sound of my own voice because it would make me feel super anxious and weird listening to myself talk. But over time, those things go away, and you just have to, accept that it's a very difficult thing to do, and it's going to take a lot of time to become good at it. So if you make a mistake, that's what it is. Learn from it, and you'll be better next time. So DaVinci Resolve has a bunch of tabs that you'll see at the bottom here: Media, Cut, Edit, Fusion, Color, Fairlight, and Deliver. Each of these does something different. The Media tab is used to click through all of the files in your computer, find the files that you filmed, drag and drop them into your media pool, which is down below here. You can see that I have 6 shots that I'll be using to make a video today. The Cut tab is a very, very simplified way to put together a video. To be honest, I don't use this a lot. I find it overly simplified, and it does exactly the same job as Edit, which is much more powerful and I think more fun to use. I'll just give you guys a little bit of an orientation to the Edit tab because this is where you're going to spend most of your time. The most important thing on the bottom just down here is what's called your timeline. I have this set up quite simply. This is the finished video that I'm actually recording right now for you guys. You'll see that there are multiple video clips that have been entered into video 1. There's actually multiple channels for organizational purposes. So you can actually take a video and move it into another channel, and you can make as many of these channels as you want. This is really convenient if you have 2 or multiple cameras, so that you can have each camera shot in its own channel. And it just makes it way easier for your brain to sort of comprehend what you're looking at. I'll just put it back for now. The second thing that will be important is in the top right. This is your monitoring sort of video. This is what the video is going to look like when it's done. This is what I look at mostly. On the left is a second video screen, and this is what you can use to actually sort of drag and drop some of your media into, and you can look at it and make sort of changes as you see fit and just review the videos that you've been working with already. You can turn effects on and off. Let's say you wanted to add some titles. We'll talk more about that later. There's all sorts of stuff in here. I have by no means gotten to the bottom of all of the different effects. It's pretty limitless. Edit index I've never used before. Sound library, you can download it. This is kind of fun if you're making a video. Sometimes it's nice to add some sound effects. It makes it more engaging. There's also these really important tools up on the top left, just above the timeline. The first one is this magnet. So you'll find, like, if I take this video, let's move it out, and as I drag it slowly, you'll see that it will snap into place. And this is really helpful 95% of the time. But sometimes you're going to be trying to finesse something. And when that's the case, you need that snap function to turn off. So that's the purpose of it. The other big tool is the blade tool right here. You can also access this by pressing the letter B. It's used to cut videos. And then the select tool, which is just the regular mouse here, which is used to click things and move them around. More on these 2 tools later. To be honest, I don't use a lot of the other tools. I will sometimes use markers. You'll see one here. I was using this to decide where to make a cut in the video. So this is handy because you can just be playing the video and then press the letter M or click this button, and it will just drop a marker at that exact moment. And then you can go back and edit from that exact spot. So it's kind of convenient. The Fusion tab I have never used. You can use it to create like complex rendered 3D graphics. I do use the Color tab. This is something that is fairly tricky. but certainly within the limits of learnability in a short amount of time, within an hour, you can have an idea of what you're doing here. And if you wanted to sort of increase or decrease the contrast, maybe there's something that's really distracting or too bright in your video, wanted to change the colors, make some of them more colorful or less colorful, this is up your alley. But for the vast majority of videos, you probably won't even use it. I've never used Fairlight, but it is used for audio editing. Deliver is the last tab, and this is used to export the video that you've created. It's pretty simple. We'll talk about it later. So I've already done a couple of things prior to starting this video, and I just wanted to take you through what those things are. The first is I've taken all of this video, I've selected all of it, and I've dragged and dropped it into this media pool. The second thing that I did is I watched each of these videos and I made an in and an out. So you'll see that there's a small bar that's lighter than the rest. This bar represents the entire timeline of this video clip that I filmed. An in and an out is what sort of tells the computer what part of the video you're wanting to include. And there's two ways to do this. First, you play the video and you wait to get to the point that you want to start, and you press pause. I'm using the space bar, but you can also use play and stop here. So the space bar is just the shortcut. Your two options, you'll have to excuse the noise. Unfortunately, there's some renovations going on upstairs. I hope it's not too loud. Two options to start an in and an out. You right click on the timeline and you can say mark in and mark out, or I just use the shortcut, so I press I and O. I've gone through each of these videos and marked an in and an out for them, and I'll show you why this is going to be really useful later. The second thing that I've done, and this is something that you may or may not have to do based off of the capabilities of your computer. If you're working on a laptop, you certainly will have to do this. If you are working on a super high power gaming PC, then you may not. My PC is not brand new, and when it was brand new, it was not the fastest gaming PC out there, but it's certainly a capable computer. The big problem that you have is your computer is going to have to do a lot of thinking and a lot of work to play these videos as you assemble it, and it's going to be too much. What you'll notice is the frame rate is going to drop so low that your video playback is just going to look like a whole bunch of pictures that just like jump together instead of a smooth video. And this can make it so difficult that it is impossible to edit anything. So you need to have a way around that. There's two major ways. There is generate optimized media, and there are proxy files. There's pros and cons to each of them. For what it's worth, I have only ever used generate optimized media, and I'll show you how to do that. So you select the video files that you're going to use, you right click on them, and then you press generate optimized media. This is a really labor intensive thing. I recently created a video where it took 8 hours to do this. So definitely, depending on how large your video files are and how many of them there are, definitely set aside some time for this because it's not going to be fast. Okay, so we have our video files, we have ins and outs started. Let's start assembling this video. So in the Edit tab, I'm going to drag and drop my first file, and that is intro. When I drag and drop this intro file, what's very cool, I didn't put it on the 0 line, there I'll put it on the 0 line, is it will only include the parts that I've marked as in and out. So it did not drop the entire video into my timeline, which is very handy. And I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to drag and drop each of those files into my timeline. So second is clinical applications. I can drag and drop that. And then I'm going to move over using the slider on the bottom. After clinical applications comes tools. Sliding over. After tools, I did a macro shot. After macro shot, I did the procedure. And then after the procedure, I did an outro. So a pretty simple video format. Now, I can slide through these, and this video screen on the right will show me what my video is going to look like. Don't worry about the video on the left. This is just showing your media on this side. It's not actually in your video. Now, the best thing to do here is to watch your entire video, and as you do that, you will press pause, make the adjustments that you need to make, and then continue on. There's a couple of tools that you'll need to know about. The first is that if you click on a video in your timeline and you hover on the right-hand side, you can actually slide the video, make it shorter or make it longer. You'll see that the video full length is all the way out here. If I drag it to the right, I'll make the video longer, and if I drag it to the left, it'll make the video shorter. I don't need to make a change for now, but that's certainly something that you will do. The second tool is this blade tool, so you can get it to the shortcut B or just click it. And when you click on your video, it will make cuts. And this is very useful because if I go back to my selection mode, I can take one of these and I can take it out and move it to wherever I want on the timeline really easily. I'm just going to get rid of those changes because I don't want those to happen. Okay, so I'm going to fast forward as I do this, and I'm going to go through my video and make those changes, and then we will reconvene when that's done. Okay, so now that those changes are made, there are 3 things in this video that I want to change. So the first is I'm just going to zoom out here so that we can see all of it. The first thing is that this macro shot clip that I did is too loud. And the reason for that is my face was way closer to the video camera when I was shooting this shot than the others, where I was standing farther away. And you can actually see that because in this waveform at the bottom, these little lines represent louder noise than the others. So this is a very unscientific way of doing this, but I'm going to click on this shot and I'm going to hover over top of the audio. And I'm just going to drag this down until those lines look like they're about the same size. So about there, maybe just one less. And we can have a listen to it and make sure that that sounds about right. The audio from these videos is not being transmitted to you guys, but I can hear it. It sounds about right, but maybe I'll just make it a little bit louder. So maybe minus 6 decibels is better. No, we'll just go minus 4.5 for now. Let's have a listen to that. Yeah, that sounds great. So we'll go negative 4.5 decibels. The next thing is I made 2 technical errors when I was placing the central line. So you'll notice that the first is that I say, where is it? Right here. I didn't cut the skin before I put the dilator on. Obviously I didn't do this because this is a mannequin and I would get in a lot of trouble if I started cutting these things apart. So I should add some text here just to explain that normally you should be cutting the skin before you place a dilator. So I'm going to zoom in on this part and I'm going to find about where I want this to go. How about right about here? So in order to find text, I need to, on the upper left-hand side, you can see where my cursor is. I'll click Effects. I'll go to Titles under Toolbox, and I'm going to drag and drop some text into this spot. And because each of these blocks is 5 seconds long, I'm just going to increase it and make it a little longer, so it'll be 8 seconds long. Now, this text is in the wrong place. It's really easy. All I have to do is drag and drop it up and to the left where I want it. And the text itself is actually going to be too large, so I'm going to make it smaller just to make my life easier. I'm going to triple click on it so that I can select all of it, and I'm going to say prior to dilation, the skin needs to be cut to allow the dilator to pass freely into the subcutaneous tissues. And I'm just going to break this up so that it sort of fits a little better. Let's see how this looks. Come on. There it comes. So prior to dilation, the skin needs to be cut to allow. I'm just going to adjust the way that this is. There, that looks good. We can just make this slightly larger. Cool. So as I play this now, you'll see that the text pops up for 8 seconds, and then it will disappear on its own. And that seems very appropriate. The second sort of technical mistake that I made is right at the very end here. You can't hear me say it, but I say that after pulling the wire out, you can be absolutely guaranteed that the central line is in the jugular. This is of course false because nothing in medicine is ever 100%. So I need to put something in here that says, you know, you should get an X-ray after you place these, before you use it, just to make sure that everything is safe. So I'm going to go to the appropriate spot. I'm going to drag and drop another text box, make it a little bit longer. I click on it, move it up to where I want it to be, decrease the size, and I will say, prior to using a central line, confirm its placement with a chest X-ray. Now, this video is not about central lines. This is probably not the most important point in the world, but it was bugging me, so we're just going to fix it. There, prior to using a central line, confirm its placement with a chest X-ray. The other thing that I should do is just add a period here, because my last one had a period. Okay, so now I have a video that's been fully assembled. I have been recording this for 15 minutes only. I have adjusted the audio, I have clipped everything together, and I have added 2 text boxes, and I would say this video is complete. I'm not going to bother with color grading at this time, and I don't think that there is any additional music or anything that I want to add in. So I'm going to click on Deliver. So I need to select how much of this video I actually want to export, and I want to export it all. So this slider, see how there's a dark side on the left and a bright side on the right? I need to just make sure that I am including all of my video in this recording or in this export, so that not a portion of it is just getting exported. So I need to make sure that this is all selected. And you can see it's all selected here. Great. I'm going to click on the YouTube tab because I don't really use custom settings. And just to be fancy, I'm going to use Ultra HD. So this is your 4K video format, and that's just because the camera that I used allows for this. Frame rate, format, video codec, all of these things, don't worry about them. Your computer is going to just do these on its own. And I'm going to click Add to Render Queue. This message is meaningless. I would just say add it. It's just because of some settings that I started before I started this recording. And I'm going to click Render All now, and my computer is going to go ahead and assemble this video. I think those are all the things that I wanted to talk to you guys about today. I hope this is useful. This is about a 20-minute long video. If you guys have questions or concerns, you'll have access to my email address. Please send me an email. Honestly, I think there are so many resources online that are easily accessible. If you Google any problem and DaVinci Resolve, there will be a tutorial on how to fix it, either on YouTube or in text format somewhere online. And you know, those can make a really big difference, but sometimes it's actually knowing the keywords and knowing what to look for, and that can be quite difficult. So, all right, I'm going to sign off. Thank you guys so much. I hope you're enjoying the course, and I will see you later.